And let's talk about this post spring top 10. Who you starting off with? Who's your number one?
We talked about it just before the show. I got to go with the Bulldogs, baby. Give me them
I'm right.
Bulldogs. Number one.
I'm right there with you, man. It's got to be Georgia. Carson Beck is back. That defense. I mean, you got Kirby Smart, 2-time national championship coach. Is there really anything else to say about Georgia? They're coming in this season with a bitter taste in that Bulldog mouth, and they're ready to chew on some people, man. This Bulldog team is probably the most blue-chipped roster in college football. They're going to be ready to rock. Now, obviously, the Big Ten, the SEC got a lot tougher with the additions that they got. But, man, I expect the Bulldogs to be the one.
And you talked about it, man. Carson Beck, first-year starting quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, man. 73%, just under 4,000 yards. They have 5 preseason All-Americans already picked. On their team right now, they have a strong offensive line and returning a good defensive line. They got some holes to fill, but man, that's where you want it. You want that quarterback, you want an offensive line, you want a defensive line. You got that, you're up there, man. Especially
and
with
don't forget about that coaching staff either, man. Like that's
for sure. And a team that recruits like that. Damn.
All right, man. Who's your number two?
Number two. This is where, man, people are going to give me shit, but they gave us shit last year, and we were almost damn right. I mean, let me preface this by saying we haven't gone into the full gamut of things because our model does take into effect some of the fall workout and the fall, you know how guys are doing. So I won't get in too far on how our model goes. But when we get the reports out of fall camp, we'll do a bigger and deeper dive into this. But number two for me is Oregon, man. 69% returning production. 2 preseason All-Americans. They got that transfer quarterback in Dylan Gabriel that was 69.3% completion percentage, 3,660 yards and 30 touchdowns, man. I know he's going to be in a new system, but Dan Lanning's building something strong there, man. All season long, recruiting's going well. Portal's going well. I know everyone's like, Ohio State's got to be number 2, but man, it starts with the quarterback. The guy that's touching balls the most is who you want to be number 1. Right?
Absolutely. You're correct. That's what I actually put. I think you hacked into my computer, pulled a Michigan, stole my stats, got my info because I got Oregon number 2 as well, man. I think Dan Lanning has made some noise, but he hasn't made it over the top, and I think this could be the year. One, they catch Ohio State in Eugene. That's going to be huge as far as where they're ranked going into the playoffs. Also, you talk about Ohio State getting in the portal and getting a bunch of good pieces, but I think where they missed is the quarterback position, and Oregon did not, man.
And offensive line. I mean,
they offensive line.
Offensive linemen. Those are the 2 question marks.
You got Evan Stewart too. You have Jabbar Muhammad too, one of the best cornerbacks that was in the portal. Like they did not play any games, man. They tried to answer every question. They got the big time defensive tackle out of
Michigan State.
Out of Michigan State too, man. Like Derek.
I think his name was Harmon.
Yeah, Derek Harmon, man. Like absolute beast at defensive tackle. I mean, Oregon filled their holes like Ron Jeremy, man. They weren't playing any games. They stacked their roster. Now, there's still some questions that they have on defensive line, mostly from the edge. But I think as far as the quarterback position being the most important in football, I think they did a better job answering that question than Ohio State did. And that's why I put them above Ohio State for me. So I'll go into my number 3. My number 3, Ohio State. Same thing.
Give me that number 3.
Everybody wants to talk about their portal additions and good for it, right, man? Caleb Downs, probably the best. I mean, All-American as a freshman. You grab him out of the portal from Alabama. I mean, you have all SEC running back that you grabbed out of the portal. But to me, the biggest miss was Will Howard, man. I'm not sure if I have that much faith in Will Howard or what they have. But Ryan Day's best thing he did for Ohio State was to keep that defense out of the draft, man. Everybody wants to talk about the portal, but what he did to get everybody back was absolutely huge, man. That was the best recruit.
And not just that.
He did.
Not just that. Their offense, man, the receivers that they brought back, obviously Travion Henderson, bringing him back was huge. And some of their offensive line that they kept together.
No, I agree. I think that was the best recruiting he did was keeping his team out of the draft, man. Like,
hey,
insane.
We've been right on so far. Not so fast, my friend. I got to pull that one out, man. Got to steal one from the legend himself. And the reason why, the returning production, man. We made a big deal out of returning production last year, and that's why we had Florida State so high, and it paid off in the end. Man, without a injured quarterback, they would have been in the playoffs. We got I should say, Texas at number 3, 70% returning production percentage. And Quinn Ewers, the guy that skipped out of Columbus himself, lighting the ball on fire. They lost a little bit on defense, but they had, that defensive line, particularly the D tackle Sweat, went to the NFL. But they got replacements. They had a lot of players play. And it's Texas, man. They're just filling the holes with recruits. And they're back, baby. We can finally say that Texas is back. And I got them back just a notch above Ohio State at number 4.
So, you have them at 3. I have Texas at 4. You have Ohio State at 4. Just try to clear up, even though it was probably more confusing than what it was. But yeah, man, like Sark keeps building Texas bigger and stronger. You talked about that 70% production returning. Now they have some holes to fill on the defensive line. They went out in the portal and tried to fill it as much as they can. That's the biggest question that they got. Everything else, man, like Ewers, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Arch Manning's there in case something happens to him because he is a little bit injury prone. So you have Arch Manning sitting there just in case that he needs to come in. But yeah, Texas is definitely back.
And why do I have Ohio State where I do? The return in production is not quite the same as Texas. And like I said before, that makes a huge difference. So Ohio State's at a 66 returning production. They have Tui Molal returning. They have, like you said, they have Sawyer returning. I mean, Mbuka returning. They got everyone coming back, mostly on defense. They brought in Downs, Denzel Burke. Everywhere you look, the defense, NFL. They were top 3 last year. That didn't quite get them there because guess what? They didn't have that quarterback and they didn't have that offensive line. So I still got questions behind Will Howard like you do and the offensive line. I mean, the guy that's touching balls the most is the one you want to be the champ. And they don't have a guy that's touching balls just quite as good as everyone else above them.
You're
Fondle those things, man.
All about those balls, aren't you?
Cradle the balls. The more you touch balls, the better you are. You
all right, man. So we had a little bit of difference at 3 and 4. Who you got at 5? I'm curious. 5, man. Who's your 15?
Bama.
Damn.
I don't think there's anything else to say. What else do you have to say? Just Bama. I mean, they have a lineup that can lose 20 people and still be top 5 in the country.
No, I agree. I got Bama number 5 too, so I'm right there with you. I mean, everybody thinks that they're going to take a massive step back that Saban retired. And they will, because only what Saban did. Like, no one's going to accomplish that ever again in college football. There will never be another Nick Saban. I don't think there'll be another coach that's even close. One, the landscape of college football has changed a lot, so I don't think you're going to have that kind of success in a 12-team playoff. And then you talk about NIL and the portal and all those different things that, Saban didn't really have to deal with earlier in his career. But, man, Caleb DeBoer is a freaking winner, man. Like, they're going to start off a little shaky. I think they'll come out the gates kind of a little unsure. I think you need some Milroe.
Oh, why? Because they're playing Wisconsin first?
Of course. The Badgers are going to put them down up here in Camp Randall. Maybe.
Hey, man.
Sweet dreams are made of, right?
Fickle. I wouldn't put it past Fickle.
I wouldn't put it past Fickle. But, man, if they have a chance just because they're going to come out the gate with a new system, new coach. I think Milroe can be dangerous, but he still needs arm talent. He's got to increase arm talent big time for them. I think them to be a real national championship threat, but their roster is good enough for them to beat anybody any given Saturday. So, yeah, Bama 5 for me, man. What you got for 6?
6. I think we differentiate here. I can't remember what you had, but I got Ole Miss, man. Portal winners, even though they lost Junkins to Ohio State, man, they pulled in a ton. And I talk a ton. I mean, they got that Texas A&M defensive line transfer, and Lane Kiffin's just been building and building and building, and they spent the money this year somehow. I mean, they're not known for just throwing out money. Oh, I guess they are, right? Didn't they get in trouble for that?
They did, but now it's legal, so it's fine.
Now it's just it's commonplace. But I think Kiffin's got what it takes to get him to the next level. He spent those years under Saban, the GOAT himself, like we just talked about, and he's ready to roll, man. He's building this to be an SEC runner now that Saban's out.
Now, I'm not a huge Lane Kiffin fan. I feel like this guy's had every opportunity to do great things, and he's never done it. So I'm not a huge Lane Kiffin fan.
He's doing it at Ole Miss, man. Come on.
But he is doing it at Ole Miss, and I'll give him some credit. They went out and they saw this roster returning. They saw the talent they had, and then they went out and got booster money galore for the NIL and to get more players here. Other than losing their running back, man, They did everything they could do in the offseason to set themselves up for success. They're definitely going to be making the playoffs, in my opinion. I got them at number 6 as well. But yeah, they have every opportunity in front of them. Hopefully, Lame Kitten doesn't screw it up, man, and we don't see the fire lanes back.
Yeah. You got to tell me who your 7 is.
7, man. I'm going with Utah. Utah, man.
Utah, go for 2.
Utah, Cam Rising. A lot of people go to college for 7th years. They're called Cam Rising, not doctors. I just want to put that out there. But he's back, man. He's coming back from his knee injury. They're going to have a lot of returning production. They dealt with a lot of injuries last year. Hope if everybody stays healthy, man, this might be the best Utah offense you've probably seen since the Meyer days. Plus, Kyle Whittingham is going to have that defense pumping. I'm excited for this Utah team. I think they're going to the Big 12 with a lot of opportunity. I think the Big 12 is wide open, and I think they're the best roster in the Big 12 for them to pull it off and make the playoffs.
Ooh, man. Again, where you differentiate, I got Oklahoma State, man. 10 starters on offense, 10 on defense returning, 72% returning production. The Cowboys are hot. Problem with the Cowboys is when they're expected to do good, it doesn't always turn out. So, man, but you cannot hide from the fact 10 on offense, 10 on defense. This team is going to be special. They got a Heisman candidate. Man, Ollie's going to be running that ball. I can't wait.
I do like Ollie, and the coach has been there for, 40 years.
And you talk about Ron Jeremy filling holes. Ollie will be filling them holes for sure.
He won't be filling them. He'll be running straight past them.
Be bursting through them, man.
All right, man. 8. Who you got at 8?
8. Who do I have at 8? Oh, man, this is a tough one. I went ahead and put Penn State, baby. I know you don't have them up there. It may be a little bit of reach, but they got that their Aller returning at quarterback. They got Fleming transfer from Ohio State coming in. I know they lost their.
Are those two things drags or liabilities?
It depends, man. If their new offensive coordinator can put it together, we'll see what happens.
I mean, you're going to talk about Penn State and putting them at number 8, and you don't mention the running backs, and you mentioned those two?
Singleton, yeah. I mean, they got a double-headed monster at running back for sure. And their defense is going to be just as good as they were last year.
When you talk about Aller, he couldn't do anything right last year, and then you talk about their wide receiver room is absolute trash at this moment. If they're going to be number 8, it's going to be because of those running backs. But for me, everybody, especially you, Buckeye fans out there, putting Michigan way back there. I got these guys at number 8, man. I think there's a lot of misinformation on this team. Everybody thinks everybody left for the draft or everybody hit the portal. This defense is an absolute unit, man. You're talking about Graham and Grant, 2 of the best defensive tackles in college football are back for that defensive line. And then you got Will Johnson, the best cornerback in college football. This defense will keep them in every game they play. Now, who knows if they can find an orgy to work out for them? I don't know. They definitely have some questions at quarterback, but Don Edwards, man, come on, man. That dude has all the talent in the world. Now, he needs to work on his consistency, but you've seen him in the national championship game. He was my wild card player in that game, and he showed out right away for me for that pick. I think they have everything they need to play Michigan football and still be a damn good, dangerous team in the playoffs once they make it again.
For sure. Hey, defensive line is where it all starts. Got to have that quarterback, so I don't know what to do with them. I got them at 9, 36% returning production. That brings them down a little bit on my list. They did what they did last year. They got the Don, and he runs. I swear he reminds me of Ted Ginn when he's running the ball. I mean, he just breaks away from everyone. He's got to have those holes. We don't know what's going to happen on the offensive line. You're right. The best DT combo in the nation in Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant to go along with Will Johnson, probably the best cornerback in the game. So, hey, man, bright side on defense. Let's see what they got at offense. I got to see some orgies in the end zone before I get excited.
So I got Penn State at 9. I agree it was a stretch for you. I think it's a stretch for me. I don't have a lot of faith in putting them at number 9. I think Florida State could have been here. I think there's a lot of other teams. I think once you're at this 9, 10, 8 level, who knows? There's a lot of teams I think that could fit into this area. But me, man, Drew Aller's gotta show some improvement, man. He struggled in the spring. He struggled last season. But with Allen and Singleton, man, this team could be good enough on the run, on the ground to beat anybody. I think their defense is not going to lose anything with Tom Allen coming in, and then they bring in a great offensive coordinator from Kansas. Right now, I'm struggling to remember his name, but they do lose. What's his name? Andy. His first name's Andy. Can't think of his last name. But anyways, they lose Lambert Smith, their best wide receiver. They did pull in Julian Fleming from Ohio State, but he's the 5-star who's never been. Man, I have a lot of faith with them staying in the top 10, but I put them there. Who's your last, man?
Save the best for last, man. I got Utah. And for the same reasons you said. 7 years in college football. Cam Rising, he's been there since the Magna Carta was signed. I don't know what's going on, man, but the dude was awesome 2 years ago. Just love watching him play. He's got a heart of gold, man. And it's Utah, man. Utah is stacked. I mean, every year, even when they don't have players coming back, they don't have 72% returning production. They play well. I mean, they played USC tight every year. They've been in the Big Ten championship game. Pac-Dun championship game. Was it 3 out of the last 4 years?
Yep.
So they're a solid team all around. Kyle Whittingham is doing a great job. Been doing a great job for years. So with what they have, I believe that they're going to run the Big 12.
But for me, number 10, give me Missouri and Eli Drinkowitz, man. I think he's doing work there in Missouri. Now he needs to get those portal additions to hit. But solid offense, solid defense. They pushed Georgia to the brink. They beat Ohio State in the bowl game. I know they were on their third-string quarterback. I don't want to hear Buckeye fans blah, 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 cry, whatever. I still think Missouri is one of the more talented teams in the SEC, and I think they're a dark horse to make it into the playoffs. I think it's deep though, so it's going to be hard for them. But yeah, Missouri, man, rounding out my top 10.
Kotelnicki was the name you were looking for, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, and Dominique says don't sleep on his Knowles.
I don't think anybody's sleeping on them. I just don't know if they're in the top 10, but no one's sleeping on the Knowles except for the playoff committee. I think they're still sleeping on them.